It's the new year, y'all. And if you're like us, we already have elk hunting on the brain big time. On today's show, straight out of experiences and lessons learned from our coached elk hunts, we talk about hunting perceptions versus realities that most elk hunters experience. Those aha moments. Sometimes the hard lessons that happen as a result, right? That discussion, our listener shout outs, and questions from our awesome ElkBros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for our blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of the show, coming to you from an undisclosed part of the world. And joining me today, that's right, we got the man from Colorado, Mr. Daniel Vigil, with us. And the legends in the house from Cimarron, New Mexico, Mr. R.C. Knox. And WWJGD's in the house. What would Joe Gillia say? And two of our special guests from Colorado, Mr. Farbod Cocky, and all the way to Florida, Mr. Mike Boland. Welcome in, guys.
Thank you.
What up, fellas?
What's up, guys?
What's up?
You know,
Way to start the new year.
so yeah, we always talk about how we want people to feel like they're in elk camp with us, right? And let me tell you what, listeners, you're pulling up a chair because basically most of us have not seen each other since elk camp, and a couple of them didn't even meet each other because they were in two separate elk camps in different places. But this is so cool, man. Daniel's here, Farbod's here, Mike's here. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks
for having us.
Daniel, you're the quiet one since when?
Oh, not very much on TV type of deal with podcast first one, so might be shy for the first couple seconds, but I'll get broken in real quick.
I don't think
at camp, I can tell you that.
Not at all.
Yeah, Mike, you've had a lot of experience with Daniel, right?
I have had the most amazing week with that man, lifelong friends after it, and we had a blast. We laughed the whole time. We learned a lot, and we didn't stop 1 minute.
Mr. Boland, I'll start with you, and then I'll come to Mr. Khaki. What do you guys do for a living?
I own a real estate team in Naples, Marco Island, Florida. So we have 8 selling agents, residential real estate, and it's always an adventure.
An Oppenheim wannabe, huh?
Exactly.
Gotcha. Mr. Khaki.
Yes, I'm a general surgeon. I do trauma, robotic surgery, pretty much everything. That keeps me pretty busy. And fun fact, I do ringside medicine. So I do fights like UFC, one championship, bare knuckle. In my free time, it's kind of more of a passion and a hobby.
Awesome, man. So you do a little work for Mr. Dana White and those guys.
Yes, that's
fun. Y'all coming to Houston pretty soon.
I got to get my Texas license.
I got you. Are you only licensed in Las Vegas or?
He's in Colorado.
I'm Colorado.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's interesting, the personalities of the type of people and that you get, and Farbod is very he's very spot on with everything. I mean, very learned, soaks everything up, likes structure, likes the step-by-step, but at the same time, he doesn't just fall in that. He was able, I've been with some people that are just so anal, they're just locked in, and you really have a hard time coming out to the sides like this. But for you guys listening, both these guys were in our ElkBros adventure camps this year. Farbod was on our coach rifle hunt, and Farbod, you actually took an animal, right?
Yes.
Beautiful bull.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was such an amazing experience.
And Mike, who did not harvest an animal, was in our archery camp in the Martinez. And that's what I wanted. I wanted two representations here. Not that Mike and Jamie didn't have opportunities, but that's all. That's all part of that process too, and we'll get a chance to talk about that as we go in. But for our listeners, I thought it was really, really huge that we bring in guys that perspectives are fresh, right? I mean, Farbod, you contacted me a year in advance from when you were at camp, right? And this guy calls me up and he's like, I don't know if I'm the type of client you guys want. And I was like, what do you mean by that, man? And he said, well, I have 0 hunting experience. And I was
Exactly who we want.
what's the problem here?
Yeah.
And I mean, ground 0, right? So that was.
You made it look easy, Mr. Farbod.
And that was really cool.
I was, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was worried you weren't going to have anything to coach because I had no base. That's, of course, before I learned about the Blue Collar Elk Academy and all the things we talked about, the webinars,
all the tool sets that came up, right?
All the tool sets, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's really unique about that was you were 0 and went on the rifle coach hunt. Mike, I get a phone call from, or Mike, did you reach out with an email first and then I called you?
I left a message and got a phone call, shortly thereafter. And I had been, trying to figure out DIY guided hunts and started to get frustrated because you kind of get the same canned answers no matter who you called. And I really wanted to try and do it on my own. However, I knew it was a super big bite to try and accomplish that. So I kind of did a bunch of research for a group of guys, then put it on the back burner because I kind of got frustrated, and I never listened to podcasts. I was hiking, training, and threw you guys on and pick up the phone after I listened to a couple podcasts. We had an awesome conversation. I was going, after I got off the phone, I just needed to make that work. And we got it figured out. And I'm so thankful that I picked up the phone and called, and am thankful for the awesome week that we had.
And for you, elk hunting, what was your level of experience?
0 elk hunting. I had been hunting since I was probably 11 in Missouri, grew up in Missouri, and hunted anything, everything, any season, and then hung it up, fly fished, and did some, climbing, adventure travel, and that stuff. So I hung up hunting for quite a while, moved to Florida in 2005, so hadn't hunted since 2005, but had the desire and wanted to go to the elk route, and picked up the phone, figured it out, and now the problem is I'm hooked. So from now on,
Nice.
at least I have the wife support in saying, you know what, I support you. So from now I'm, there's rainbows and unicorns and stuff like that. We'll see when that ends, but hey, right now, ride the wave while you can.
That's right.
Yeah. Ride it till they buck you off, brother. It happened
Exactly.
to me. It happened to me 15 years ago, and I haven't missed an elk season since. Thank the good Lord.
The addiction is real.
It is.
Yeah.
100%.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And
There
what's
are worse things, though, to be addicted in. I tell my wife that.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Especially in oil country.
Definitely.
and let's see, Daniel and Mike have a little bit of a relationship because they spent the week together up there in the mountains. And in fact, I think you I don't think you called him Daniel. What did you call him? Junior guy?
Junior. Yeah. Well, you know what? The funny thing is, I would say all the coaches have super thick skin, and it takes a special person to figure out where the scab is and start picking it. And I think we did a good job with that, don't you think, Daniel?
Oh, I thought you guys just got my back. That's all. No, it was fun. Great time on the hills.
Yeah, I was I was privy to experience a lot of that on that hunt. Got to see that, and I tell you, y'all listening that are joining us around the campfire, man. If you ever get a chance to talk to anybody that's been in any of our camps and hunting with us, I think you're going to hear one common thing is that we are who we are, man. And these guys fit right in. They could take it. They could give it. We had a good time. A lot of grinding on hunts, and we're going to talk a whole lot more about that as we get there a little bit later. But I just wanted to thank you guys for being here tonight, Farbod and Mike, because again, when we talk about, I think you guys are perfect representatives of people, because Farbod, even though you're from Colorado, the hunting, where you were at with hunting, Mike, I think doggone, it's so funny. Guys from Missouri are just like rabid hunters, man. I've known so many Missouri dudes that they love to hunt and hunt anything. But you got a chance to come there with zero experience. So here you are in Florida getting this information and doing everything that you did with us because, well, I'll let you guys say, once you purchased a hunt, what happened with you, man?
I got pretty nervous because I'm like, I gotta be ready for this. I just made a huge commitment, and it's on me. Joe can't hold my hand and get me there. I need to put in time and effort, and with my schedule, that was kind of hard. And I kind of made a mistake of ordering a rifle that was a new model, and I didn't get it till June, and that started to stress me out because I'm like, I gotta go to the range. But yeah, it kind of lit the fire and got me looking at the academy and going through the modules. I will say that the calling, I got pretty overwhelmed, which I think most new hunters do. And I'm like, how am I supposed to learn a new language in a short period of time? And thankfully, Joe checked in with me and just asked about it. And I kind of had to, own it that I wasn't practicing enough. And that kind of spurred the fire there. And then I felt like I was at a pretty good spot by the time we got to elk camp. But yeah, as soon as I purchased it, I was, that's when the heat was on.
And Mike, for you?
Put the pedal to the metal and started trying to put in the pieces, pick up, everything. And I went on all different stuff online to figure out the calling, because that was the biggest concern after throwing a call in for the first time. And that is challenging to try and figure out by yourself. And I will tell you the difference is, once you go to camp, how easy it is to kind of advance once somebody's trying to figure out your specific, what your flaw is. So I started trying to do a lot of calling, had, to and from work. I would throw the call in and work through some of that stuff. I can shoot from my house, so I would shoot, several nights a week. gear. I was in the outdoor industry in Colorado working for outdoor gear manufacturers. So that was easy for me. It was just kind of fine tuning the kit, what I was going to bring, trying to figure out with my partner who was doing what, and just going to it.
Now, you and I, we also met quite a bit on calling sessions.
And it was send the WhatsApp, send me this, send me that, which is fantastic. I think that is hands down so much more helpful than going it alone.
Whenever we would do those sessions, and what he's talking about with the WhatsApp is WhatsApp's the best thing for trading video. And because of our times and schedules, you know, it's kind of like, you know, somebody being in China and somebody being in the U.S. sometimes. So, you know, I would request something, he'd do it, send it to me. I'd critique it, give some tips on it. Then he would take that, and every now and then we would do some live FaceTimes as well. And it's so cool because you'd be like in your vehicle or, you know, something.
Right.
As we're going someplace. And Farbod and I did the same thing. We would do some of those live sessions because I think, you know, the way I taught school is that, like when I was teaching kids how to do Photoshop, right? I didn't start out going up there and showing them all the complexities of the tools to be able to create something. I'd give them the basics, and then I'd give them the problem to create and let them be frustrated somewhat in what they were doing. Because had I just sat up there and just tried to give them all of the tools, all of the complications, then what happens is it doesn't mean anything to them, and basically it's going in one ear and out the other. But once you've struggled and somebody shows you or throws you a rope, it becomes very, very pertinent at that time, and you get their full attention. And it's really neat to see when the struggles are happening, you come in and like, oh, like that. So, and that's the cool thing about a lot of the training and stuff, which, again, we're going to talk a lot more when we get there on, you know, those perceptions, because even though you're learning from us, it's kind of like this. If I was to tell everybody in here to picture a boat, everybody in here would picture a different kind of boat because it comes from our life experiences, right? You know, I know Daniel, man, he's got, you know, he's in a bathtub with a little motor thing going like this, you know?
Right, yeah. No, I know Daniel's boat.
Yeah. And, you know, I might have a catamaran, somebody else might have a Sea-Doo, you know, everybody in seeing something. I know Gil's got his bass boat in his head, you know, that's what he's seeing. Everybody sees things according to their life experiences. So even though I can be telling 5 people the same thing, like what that experience is going to be, what this is going to look like. Even when you talk about setting up in front of trees, they see the trees differently, right? They see the terrain differently because it's about their life experiences. So even though I can tell 5 people the same thing, until you actually get with boots on the ground, and it doesn't take long because you got the basis, you have the knowledge, you have all those things that you've been doing, and then all of a sudden you get there in the reality, boom, things start to click. And for you guys especially, I'm really interested when we get to the main content of this to really hear what some of those perspectives were as a newbie, because there's so many people in your position that are hearing things the same way, and they're visualizing and seeing and understanding differently. Because that's like when I teach calling. I can teach the same sound to 2 people the exact same way, but they're not going to get it the same way. You have to find a way for them to understand it, right? That's what's so cool about the coaching staff. You know, I can tell you something, I can leave, next thing you know, RC's got something, and it's like, well, why don't you try this, you know? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you guys have seen the same thing with your own kids, right? you tell your kids the same thing that somebody else tells them, but that other person just did one little nuance that your kids are like, ah, right? You know?
Yep.
So I'm real excited. I'm glad to have you guys here. It's so good to see your mugs. I bet you, the good thing is, with the Zoom, I don't have to smell you, right?
Yeah.
So,
Hey, 7 days, Joe.
and I still have a video of Mike doing the most unique elk bugle I've ever seen in my life, and I'll have to.
And you know what? You too, my friend. The cough bugle, the patented Joe Gillia cough bugle.
Yeah. I have that. When you have to cough in the middle of a set, and you don't want to scare everything away, so you try to find a way to make it into a call while you're doing it.
And the cow comes running up and looks at you, and then a bull comes and hooks her.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. So I make a call, and then Joe looks at me all nice, and he's like, "That's interesting."
At least he was nice about it.
And that was being filmed, and it's like, well, thanks, Joe. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Don't talk to Luis, because Luis did something one time, and I just turned and said,
Don't do that again.
"Don't do that
Don't
again."
do that again.
That's what he was
I've
telling
done that.
me, but he was doing it in a much nicer way.
Yes.
Joe's grown.
Oh man! So what we're going to do is let's get this puppy rocking, because I really want to get to that content. I want everybody here, and we've got some special things we're going to do tonight. So let's get going, man.
Sounds good, Joe. You want to go to the ElkBros mailbox?
Oh yeah, heck yeah. We got a good question tonight, man. Dano, you going to take that?
Yeah, from ElkBros mailbox from Kurt Hargens from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He says, "Thank you for your show. My question: when you spoke about putting elk to bed and locating them at night, so you can be on them first thing in the morning, what types of calls are you making, and are you calling from ridge tops or are you going into basins? You have said that if you hear bugles from the ridge tops, that it's another hunter. But will elk notice something unusual to hear one of their own up high on and not respond? Thanks again. Love the show."
So I want to preface this before, I'll let some of you guys take over. I'll let Dano and Gil and you guys say something, but I want to make sure that I preface something with this, is that there's been times that, again, this is about perspective. Sometimes people ask us questions and we only think about our experiences, where we've been and what we've been doing, right? And I'll tell you this, that like where it says that you've said you hear bugles from ridge tops and that's another hunter. That's not that's not the rule, man. Just know that. I mean, I've had bulls come off of ridges. I've had them come off of me, off from behind me and drop down into stuff. It's just that a lot of times in some areas, if I've heard a group of elk in a place and then all of a sudden I hear something on the side and I can generally tell what it is, a lot of times I'm hearing those elk and that's the elk. But a lot of times if I hear, another one like right up close to me up there, and you'll be able to tell sometimes, that's just another hunter up there a lot of times, but that's not always the case. So I want to go ahead and scratch that out. And
I think a lot of guys, Joe, think that first thing in the morning elk are going to be down and not up on a ridge, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's why they get that perception with that being said. But a lot of times elk will go up early, so you just don't know if they're still down or if they are on that mid ridge that's above you, right? So you can't never count anything out. You hear a bugle, you got to go investigate.
Well, and when I was talking about putting them to bed, that's different than in the morning. But at any of those times, man, I mean, if you got a group of elk that are down being vocal, down in the bottom, you can absolutely have those bulls that are traveling, that are looking, and they're going to respond and say, "Here I am." So they're going to respond from where they're going to respond on that. But let's see what you guys said. It says, when you've spoken about putting elk to bed and locating them at night, so you can be on them first thing in the morning, what type of calls are you making, And are you calling from ridge tops, or are you going into the basins? And then I think they're talking about when we put them to bed, or and what we'll do is we'll hit both of them. We'll talk about putting them to bed, and then we'll talk about getting on them first thing in the morning. Let's talk about putting them to bed. So, what y'all's experience is on that?
My experience with it, Joe, is like these elk, they got certain movement patterns. Some actually in the high country start up the top and come down for into the thicker timber, and then some at the lower land, they like to work their way up. So like when you're trying to intercept them or figure out if they're higher or lower in your elevation wise, that you're mainly just listening for them and where they're at, because my experience is that there's some bulls high up on the ridges, and then they kind of like hear the herd elk down at the bottom, and they're kind of like keeping tabs the whole time of them. So like a lot of the times you'll hear like little bugles and stuff at night, and they don't just talk like crazy, So as far as putting them to bed, it's more of a location area. They move through the night, and you're going to have to pick them back up in the morning either way.
Exactly. Now, when you talk about putting them to bed too, again, in perception, there's all kinds of different types of terrain. I mean, we've had country where it's up on top of a mesa just with little rolling hills in there. And so, when I'm putting something to bed, I just want to know what area they're in before I head out of that. Yep. Right? And what calls am I using for that? Anything to get a response.
Yep.
That's it. I always, so,
Awesome.
you guys have been through everything that I do. What do I always start with?
Cow
Cow call.
Cow and calf.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to start with a single cow, and I can sometimes do a little, yeah, I can sound like a couple of them, but I'm going to do it close. Then I'm going to send, and then I'm going to go ahead and locate, right? Yeah. Even at night, all I'm trying to do is get a response. That's all I'm trying to do. And if I can find where they're at, and it depends on where they, okay, if I find them in an area on top of a mesa and a whole bunch of oak brush and grass and stuff, most likely they're not going to be far from that in the morning, right? I'm going to be able to locate them in that area, and especially in the early morning, I should be able to locate them and find where they are. And if they are going to move, a lot of times, not always, because you don't know what's happening there, but whichever way the prevailing wind is going to come from, a lot of times they'll kind of move a little bit towards that, right? Not always. It just depends on what's happening in their area. So just like you put turkeys to bed, right? The good thing about turkeys is they're in a roost. They ain't going anywhere. Yeah. But
90% of the time our elk won't either, Joe. When we put them to bed in a valley, or where they come down in the evening, and they're in a little valley, and you get a visual on them, they're going to be in that area sometime come daylight, right? You don't know exactly, so those location calls are important to get an answer, so then we know where to go and set up and do our ambush from, right? Especially early in the morning. But most of those elk, they like to be down in the bottom in those valleys and where the good feed area is. And then if there's an upper, if there's timber and everything up in elevation, they'll go up in the morning, and bed down up there in that upper region. So
they like those valleys because that's their night bed where they're safe, right?
That's right.
They can see, they can catch the thermals. That's one reason they like that. Again, it depends on the area.
Well, a lot of times you have those thermals falling, they're coming off that cold air is sinking off of that mountain, and it's coming right to them. So that's why they like being in those lower areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All about safety for them, all about safety. And then, they're slaves to their bellies. We've said that a million times. And you can find where they like to go feed and water early and late. You've pretty well mapped it out. And now it's about trying to intercept them.
And then in the next morning, okay, let's say you put something to bed. What do you do, Dano, after you put something to bed?
So the next morning, or if I know where they're at, I try to get on the opposite ridge and listen from a distance first to make sure that they're still down where I think they are, and they're not heading up early, because sometimes, depending on the day, they'll get out of there real quick and early, and you're like, quarter mile behind them, and you're like, man, they were here, they ain't making noise, they ain't talking to me. And then you spend till noon hiking up the top, and then you catch them or they end up bedding, and you start hearing them talk again. And you're like, been calling all day, I haven't heard nothing, but you weren't in the zone yet. So I like to get to the side of them and try to figure out what the wind's doing and seeing what's going on as the sun's coming up. And then if I could hear them talking, I need to do a better job myself. I'm trying to cut them off a little more, because I'm always I always come up on the short end and I end up tailing them up instead of trying to get ahead of them. And that's a tricky play because the wind too, But if you play it right, it's a good thing.
I'm a fan of getting on top on a ridge and just listening for a while, man. Just sit down. They're in the area somewhere, and just listen. And you sit there for a while and you don't hear anything after a while, I'll just throw a cow call through the tube.
Yeah.
And if I get one response that tells me
where they're at
and gives me that direction, that's all I need. I don't need to do anything else, man. I can just start working from there, right? So
never better than when you go, yeah. I mean, it's right there. They're like, oh man, we ain't got to go far. They're right there. Now we gotta figure out if he's coming in before it gets daylight. Yeah. So you just got to be real careful when you start that call, because man, we've had them dang near run us over, Joe, when it's gray light. And
they seem to come in fast. There's a weird period of time.
Yeah.
There's a weird period of time in that gray light. It seems like sometimes in the dark, they respond, and all of a sudden they're quiet at gray light, and then they start to go off again, just as it's getting a little bit lighter there. But heck yeah, dude. I mean, how many times they seem to really come in quick in the dark, especially, those single bulls and stuff like that, man. It's like they want, I think they're doing the same thing we're doing, right? Yeah. They're just trying to make sure they get in the vicinity of those animals and locate them so that they can make something happen for themselves.
I've almost learned, man, that you don't want to make that first cow call till you could actually draw your bow back and kill something. Because I'm telling you, RC and I were in Colorado a couple years back, and he had nature called and he needed to go take care of some business. And I'm telling you, I'm getting my bow together and I'm like, Knox, pinch it off, bro. I'm like, they're on top of us. I'm like, literally on top of us.
I remember that. Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
I told him, I said, there's a whole herd of elk on top of us, Knox. I said, and all I did was, like that. That was it in the dark. I should have never done that. Because, I mean, it was like a whole herd of elk coming to us. I said, Knox, pinch it off, bro. We got bulls in the set. He's like, what? I'm like, God dang it. I can't believe that happened to us. But sure enough, there were probably 15, 20 head of elk in front of us. And we got close, but they ended up getting around us and getting to our wind. And then all we had was some younger bulls that were spikes. And in Colorado, you can't shoot spikes. So the bigger ones must have went on with the cows when they got our wind. But, man, it was impressive. And what it really taught me is, man, don't really start talking until you can see decent, and because they'll just flat run you over first thing.
Yeah, I have I don't know if it's a bad habit, but if I'm moving, I'm always like, don't want to call out in the dark, right? But
that's another thing too, is that you need to be careful with that, just like Gil said. But I think one of the highlights that you should always do is, and something that I always say, you should think like an elk.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're leaving. They're going to come. They're going to go. Where are they going to go? So you got to think about, all right, are they going to go to that ridge, or are they going to go to that ridge? Just like Daniel said, I'm going to get on that ridge so I know that they're coming here or going there. So it's not that I want to go get on that ridge and wait for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, it's like part of my battle plan is I know that these guys are headed this direction, and that's where they want to go, and that's where, I mean, it's safe there and everything is cool. So that's where you can kind of make a plan as to either ambush them or or get on top of them, or like you say, get in there. And we've learned that you don't hit the call till you've got the bow and the arrow ready.
Yeah.
But I'm guilty of just the opposite, because and here's the reason why too, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. It's just how I do it. And you know, when I make that call in the dark and it hasn't even started getting gray light yet, and I have animals sound off, I don't need to say anything else anymore.
Nope.
And here's the deal. Like, let's say that you are up on a ridge and they're down lower, right, in a bottom or in a valley. Well, yeah, a lot of times, especially in gray light, you know, once you hit that gray light and you're starting to hit daylight, a lot of times them boogers are getting ready to hit the trees, man, right? So,
Coming.
if I'm in that situation and they start off, well, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to drop off and go after them because they're going to be coming up, right? Well, unless I connect with one in the dark. If I connect with one in the dark down in the valley and I've got the wind and I've got prevailing, I'm heading down and I'm getting after them down to where they're at. And why, right? If they're going to go up, well, yeah, they're going to go up, but if I can be where they're at gray light,
Yeah.
then I still have 15 minutes of opportunity that I can get in there and they're going to be comfortable where they're at before they go. And, you know, I've always been real comfortable with once they start to move, you know, I know that they're going to a destination, but a lot of times they're going to feed, they're going to wonder if they're not pushed. Yeah, and I can parallel and I can get on them and I make things happen, right?
You and I done it. You and I killed 2 bulls, and that we walked right in the middle of a herd of elk. Didn't even know we were walking in a herd of elk, and I said, "Stop, Joe!" And we're right in the middle of a herd of elk, and so we just hunkered down right there, kneeled down right in the middle of the road, let it get a little bit longer, made a couple calls, ended up killing 2 bulls in that set. But we walked literally right in the middle of the herd.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's where, okay, a couple things can happen. You can just blow it up because they got better eyes than you do.
Yeah.
Or you can end up in the middle of them like that. So it depends on timing. Everything is about variables, right? It's about situations. You got to consider the wind. You got to consider the time of day. You got to consider the amount of time you have before they're going to start moving. Because if I can get where they're at and be with them in gray light, I always take advantage of that. If I'm too late and I know that they're getting ready to start moving, it doesn't make any sense because I can be a good D-back and just cut them off, right?
Yeah.
So, and you end up with this situation too. When you stay up on a ridge and all of a sudden them suckers decide, you know, the valley's down, they decide to go up the ridge on the other side, right? So now it's a different kind of race.
Yeah. I called in a bull for Carl in the Vivadol, and it was gray light, just like you said. I mean, you know, they were talking and mewing, and I could tell that they were moving, and I said, "Come on," and we went right to them. And I mean, he said, "There's no way you can call that bull back," and I hit that cow call, and guess what?
In the
It
right
happened.
kind of conditions, you know, they are not that early. You have more time, especially if they don't feel pressured, man. You know, they're going to mosey, take their time. And also, if there's other bulls around that are up on the ridges talking, that changes things too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And them younger bulls, they're dumber than a bag of hammers. They're going to come run in there and try to find it anyway, you know.
And I tell y'all listen to us. Look, we ain't proud, man. We hunt in a group, and we have a bull comes in, and that's a legal bull.
She's getting it.
Yeah, we're finishing it. That's how Gil shot a beautiful spike this last
Big old
year.
Bruno Crockett spike, man. I mean, it was a magnet.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I was proud to kill him.
absolutely.
Might have well been a 350-inch bull. I could have cared less.
He eats good, don't he?
Oh, so good to eat.
Oh,
And I think that's a takeaway after spending a week in the elk woods is what's a trophy? You watch all these shows and you're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Anything that you kill is a trophy.
especially
because
Yeah,
it is
you're on my
not
page.
easy.
So
it's all extremely difficult, man.
Mhm.
Extremely difficult.
Do you know how many antler sets I've got hanging in my trees outside, man? You know, that's just my wife gets sick of it. She's like, "Are you gonna do something with all those?" You know, I don't need any more of those, but she sure loves eating them. You know what I mean? So, yeah. All right, let's move on, bro.
And if one gets in the way and they're a pretty good size, we'll give it to
Oh
them
yeah,
too.
well,
You know?
yeah. they're in trouble
Pull
too.
off one just because he's big. That's for sure. Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the
Shout out.
ElkBros shout out.
Shout out.
If you're new to our show, this is
Shout
just
out.
shout out to our followers in a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yes, sir. It's the new year, so we're going to celebrate with some special listener recognitions and a chance to win a couple of giveaways. Right now, we're gonna tell you guys how you can win some stuff. So the first giveaway is going to be a packet of 2 reed quivers. So you're basically going to see this. We put this on these are reed quivers go on our hat. They are tremendous to keep things right there. You're going to get that. And 1 each of our signature Burnham Red and the juice. Okay? So that's what we're going to give out to the first person that leaves a review on Apple Podcasts that states their name, where they're from, and says something about episode 251. That's what it is today, y'all. 251 today. Okay?
Oh,
So,
all right.
you know, go on Apple Podcasts, give a review, state your name, where you're from, and say something about episode 251, and those are going to be coming to you. As soon as you do that, you know, on our next episode, we're going to give the names out, who wins it. You can email me. If I recognize the name and it's someplace that I've seen other place, I'll try to get a hold of you, okay? All right? We'll do the next giveaway after the listener recognitions here a little bit. But look, here's the thing, y'all. I don't know if you guys know this, but 44% of podcasts don't make it by, guess how many episodes?
10.
50.
3.
wow.
44% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes.
3. Wow.
Only 8% of podcasts make it past 10 episodes. Y'all? And look, I'm telling you, when me and Gil started this thing, and we were like episode 3, I was like, Gil, how are we going to keep talking about elk hunting, man, every week? You know? And we're on episode 251.
Yes, sir.
251.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's an incredible and really, y'all, that's because of y'all out there that are listening, because your questions you send in inspire us. You know, people that send us pictures and DMs and you even get phone calls about things. You guys become the reason and the season and the things that we're going to talk about, because through you we see what the need is. And that's exactly why we got Farbot and Mike on here today, is because through them we see the things that other people need to learn about, hear about, because there's so much that we take for granted all the time. Blue collar elk hunting in 2025 was downloaded in 86 countries. In 2025, it was downloaded in 80. Now that's downloads, bro. That's not streams. Do you know that I think 85% of shows are streamed, and only about 14% are downloaded, man. So that gives you an idea when you're download of, you know, kind of what your overall people are. And I figured this, if we had in 86 countries, there's somebody in Lithuania still trying to get a translation for Chernosh, bro.
Right. I still don't know what it is.
So let's give the top 5 in the 5th place of countries downloaded. In 5th place was the UK, man, Great Britain. They're in 5th place. And some of this blows my mind. In 4th place of downloads was Brazil.
Wow.
Yeah. In third place was Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. Second place was Singapore. Singapore, bro. Listening to something about elk hunting. Now, do you guys think that's Americans and military, or I just don't.
Don't know. It would make sense.
And the top listening country, yes, sir, our brothers and sisters to the north, Canada.
Yeah,
Right?
You betcha.
I figured.
Yep. A lot of great listeners up there. So,
great people.
also, this show in 2025 was listened to in every state and thousands upon thousands of cities last year, which is so daggum cool. So here's the top listening cities in the U.S. for 2025. In 10th place, up in Canada, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. They were 10th. In 9th place, Chicago, Illinois.
The Windy City shows up.
The Windy City, man.
Yeah, right. The Bears.
Hey, the Bears are rolling still,
The
huh?
Bears, you bet.
In 8th place, the 505 Burque, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow.
Right? The home fellas and gals. In 7th place, I was like, they say everything's big in Texas, man, but what's Dallas doing down there at number 7, Gil?
I know. Well, at least we showed up with one.
Dallas, Texas, thank y'all, man, for listening. In 6th place, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Very cool.
Yep. In 5th place, Seattle, Washington.
Wow.
Seattle, Washington in 5th. In 4th place, I thought this was really cool. Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow.
I was going to say Arizona.
You talk about an elk hunting state, right?
Oh, man.
Okay.
Giant bulls in Arizona.
And 3rd place, and man, they are always in the top 3, man. Salt Lake City, Utah. In 2nd place, Portland, Oregon. So I went to, my wife and I, we took a trip to Oregon and for our anniversary, and we landed in Portland and went all the way down the coast and came back up through the Bend, Bend, Oregon, and unbelievable, beautiful state, man. In fact, part of it reminded me of New Mexico, a whole lot, on that eastern side there. Reminded me a lot of with bigger rivers. But when I got to Portland, I had a pair of shoes on, so I decided, man, I needed to change my shoes and change my clothes. So I just flopped down on the sidewalk and started changing my shoes, and people were walking by me. People were walking by me. I looked at this dude down there changing clothes and shoes down there on the sidewalk, and it was kind of like when we were in Denver, RC, and we were all pulling that with our thick coats and stuff. I guess they thought I was homeless, man, and wanted to have nothing. I'm all, hey, how you doing? In 1st place, the Big D, Denver, Colorado, and they're up there all the time, man. So, wanted to celebrate you guys, man. Thank you so much, for gosh, now we started this in 2019, Gil?
Yes, sir.
End of 2019, right?
Yes,
right
sir.
at 2020. Yep. So thank y'all for, man, everybody. Okay, now for the next giveaway. For the next giveaway, I'm going to give this ElkBros Adventures hat right here. 2 packets of buck wipes. These will be your best friend out there. RC could have used them on that hunt that Gil was talking about. I think that's what took him so long. He had to cut off the top of his sock, man. He was short. So
Yeah.
and we're also going to give you a 2-serving packet of the Trail Goods Company, our favorite freeze-dried meals, man. So they call it a 2-serving packet. I call it a one-man ElkBros packet myself. So yeah. So the first person to email me, my email is joe@elkbros.com, with the name of the 8th place city from our top 10 cities. So whoever emails me, the first email I get that to joe@elkbros.com with the 8th place from our top 10 cities, it's near and dear to me. He sent that to me, and you're going to win that, all right? And we'll get that off to you. Okay. All right, man. Let's get started on on our cities, man. In this week's top listening city, I'm told the Wind is a full-time resident. That Shields is a black hole because folks go in for one thing and come out 3 hours later questioning their life choices. And if you survive the King Soopers parking lot on Saturday, you're officially a local. Yeah, this is in Johnstown, Colorado. Yeah.
Oh, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Johnstown, Colorado. Gil, you ever been to Johnstown?
I probably have, Joe. Been all over Colorado, but I don't remember especially being in Johnstown.
Dano,
Just been through there.
you've been through there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Usually
right.
stick to Pueblo, gotta
Yeah.
stick on the dangerous side.
Joe,
Keep your guard
Johnstown.
up,
Barbod, you been there?
Yeah, it's literally 10 minutes from me, and that's where one of the big ranges that I went to practice.
Oh,
And that Shields is amazing. I've spent, don't let my wife watch this episode, but I've spent a lot of money there.
So did I get the description correct, dude?
Yeah, it's very nice town.
So I heard one other thing is a lot of people say it's basically Longmont, but don't say that.
Yeah. Longmont's like 30 minutes from it. It's near Loveland.
Oh, there
near
you go.
Loveland.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
They said it's
Love-
basically Loveland, but don't say that to them because they'll firmly tell you it's not, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Dano,
Okay. Once a major cattle and rail town, our next top listening city was the home of Laura Ingalls Wilder from Little House on the Prairie. Proud of its name, the city has spent 150 years proving it doesn't need anyone's approval. Independence, Kansas.
Independence, Kansas.
It's a good junior college there in Independence.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, Little House on the Prairie, there was actually a Laura Ingalls Wilder. There was a Laura Ingalls, man. That is all legit right there. So, yep. And I imagine they have a Little House on the Prairie museum there, most likely in Independence. So,
Probably.
cool place.
All right, Joe, our next top listening city, named after a railroad official, is a small town with big Texas energy. Waco adjacent chaos and small town courtesy. You must wave. You hold doors open and you help strangers. It is not optional in none other than Hewitt, Texas. Just on the outskirts of Waco, Texas.
Right there. And so y'all don't do the what do y'all compare the state of Texas to? You can't do the hand like Michigan.
Pretty uncomparable, Joe. It's it's big, dude. I mean, it's 14 hours across it. So I mean, literally, I can be in Florida faster than I can go across Texas. So it's 10 hours to Pensacola and it's 14 hours to El Paso from H-Town. Wow. So I mean, yeah, wow. I'm gonna go through Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida before I ever get through Texas. So, when we talk to our kids about their recruiting bubble where they want to go play ball, we ask them and they're like, well, anywhere that's, in Texas. And I'm like, whew, that's a 13-hour bubble. I mean, El Paso's, if you want to play at UTEP, that's a long way. I mean, you'd be clean up northern Missouri all the way over into Florida in 13 hours. So, I mean, that's a big bubble. So we try to get them to narrow it down within that, we call it a dinner time bubble where you can leave their school at noon and then be home by dinner time. So 5-6 hours, but still, I mean, 6 hours, you're in New Orleans out of Texas. So, I mean, it's a big place, man. So
I'm getting ready to bust some of that bubble, man.
Yeah, when we talk about Texas, we break it down in north, south, and central, right? So Hewitt is dead center in central Texas, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So that Waco area, but not in the center of the state, more to the eastern, central East Texas, right? So it's just below Fort Worth and just west of of the Fort Worth Metroplex and a little south, and east of Austin and north of there a little bit. So it's kind of in the heart of Texas.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to bust some of that bubble on Thursday, man. I got me I don't know, from my house to the South Texas ranch where you're at down there, Buzz, about probably 11 hours, I imagine.
It is, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it is. So
Yeah.
Joe's going to join me here in South Texas, so here in
Yep.
a couple of days.
Looking forward to that, man. Okay, our last but not least, one of Utah's oldest settlements. The Utah's temple here is basically the city's nightlight. They say you drive by this, you can go and get blinded. That's how bright it is. Singer Donny Osmond grew up here. Oh, there's another bright set of teeth, where the deer also think they're residents, and there is plenty of history, plenty of view, and plenty of pride. Bountiful Utah.
Bountiful Utah.
Bountiful Utah. That's awesome,
All
man.
right.
Thank you, everybody. Well, we appreciate all of our listening cities and mean that. We really mean that from you. And it's really, it's really cool that we get to go on and look at all these places that listen to us, and it's amazing to look at the list and see that. So you just make us proud. We're humbled. So what's up next, Gil?
Well, since our brother Guy Duplantier is not with us, it's main content.
Main content. All right, boys. Now you get to earn your keep, man. Mike and Farbod. Fellas, thinking back, you guys went through months of training and coaching in so many aspects of the hunt: calling, hunt techniques, terrain and vegetation, physical conditioning, shooting, finding elk behavior, setups, closing the deal. And I'm sure I'm even going to hear about some other areas here in a minute. And we're going to try to touch on as many of those areas as needed. But I'm going to start with, since you were first up in the archery, Mike, we're going to start with you and say,
Okay.
and ask you, what would you say were some of your biggest aha moments where what you had perceived definitely changed once you got boots on the ground? Why the perception? What was the reality? And what lesson or change was needed with that?
I think the single biggest thing was figuring out terrain, where elk were going to be, how to formulate a game plan, and then put that into action. I think that was
A sequence,
really
right? A system sequence.
well, yeah, it's just like, okay, you hear a bugle, pull out your Onyx, figure out which way the wind's going, try and figure out where they are, because you don't know other than they're going up. So trying to do all those things fast enough. And what Daniel said is, Jamie and I, once we got through that process with Dallin and Daniel, we were always behind the 8-ball, and we were always second guessing ourselves. And that's not something that I felt like we could have done more to prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's how long it takes for you to process that many different things. And there's so many more facets than you think that go into that decision. And it's kind of overwhelming. And we put this good thought process back. We turned to Dallin and Daniel, and they'd be like, sounds like you got a game plan. And then we'd go 100 yards, we'd stop, and their heads would explode. We'd do the whole half of the whole thing again. And finally, I think it was the third time, and it was either, I think it was Dallin. He's like, sounds like you should probably go do what you said you were going to do. And it's true, but you second guess yourself because you don't have any baseline of experience. And whatever you read, you could go through all the lessons and you can fully articulate it, but putting that into practical application
Oh,
for me is one of the things that the reason I'm going back is to fine tune that stuff, because I think that's what takes you from a reasonable hunter that can garner success to somebody that can expect success.
Yeah, don't listen to the junior guide, right?
Junior guide was right a lot. And not that that's on the record.
Look, and this is these guys are more used to guiding than they are coaching. So kudos to them letting you guys struggle bus and figure that out, because they could really take the reins and make it be different, but you learn nothing by them doing that. So kudos to Daniel and Dallin for making you guys figure this out, because those lessons that you learned are irreplaceable on the mountain. We talk about being successful all the time like it's luck. It is not luck. I'm going to tell you right now. It is made opportunities from the experience that you have. And it's so important to use that experience and make decisions off of it. And when you have none, it's really hard. It's why we have a coach with you, and they can lead you in the right directions, but they're not going to shove you over there, right? They're going to watch you fail. They're going to watch you get up. Joe told me this a long time ago. If I've got a kid that's struggling hitting the ball, playing for me, I can't go up there and swing the bat for him. Right? I got to coach them better. I got to teach them better. I got to get them to key into the nuances of, taking a different approach to things, right? We're going to be the first strike hitter. We're going to change our approach until we get to be successful. And that's the same thing on the mountain. You just keep adjusting your approach until you've made enough failure, right? You've failed enough to where now we start figuring things out, and that experience takes over. So phenomenal job to our coaches.
That's where the amount of encounters is important, and these guys had encounters every day.
Yeah.
And so you get on a short learning track, and it's not like, it's not like they went out in the woods, heard an elk and turned, and the guys went, "What are you going to do?" I mean, we had already spent, time like going through things and doing mock hunts and trying to work through some of that stuff as well. But it's so interesting once you have that pressure of that animal screaming right there, how, like you say, Gil, everything you learn goes out the crack of your butt sometimes, right?
100%, and it does.
Joe, I noticed that this season through all the guiding I did for you, or the coaching I did for you, is these guys would sound good at camp. Then a real bull would go off and bugle, and I'm like, "Go ahead, bugle at him." And they couldn't get that bugle out of the tube for the first day and a half. And after that, man, you look at day 3 or 4 and they're going, It was pretty amazing to see like the intensity of a real situation that they haven't been in before. Even though that elk is probably 400 yards away, they sound a lot closer than what they actually are. It gets you a little choked up, and then your decisions go poof, and they look like, with me and Mike, he's like, "What do we do?"
So
what do you think?
I want everybody listening to hear that, because I saw this time after time again, was where the toughest part was the transition from when they heard the animal to getting to the setup. So it was like a lot of times, and it's hard because you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times you have all this information, and so you're like, it's just like, you're on the court, on the basketball court, are we running man-to-man? Are we running matchup zone? Are we doing, it's that over-analyzing sometimes that takes place, and lack of recognition, because there was a situation that Mike and Jamie had where they actually did the right thing in the wrong situation. Like, they had a bull sound off that, had that bull been 300 yards, they went and took off. and they went to go cut the distance. Great, man. The only problem was the bull was only 75 yards, right? So, they had a bull 75 yards, and they start to run to cut the distance on a bull in a situation of terrain where that wasn't the right choice to do that. So, and I'm telling you, man, I heard descriptions of this, and all I could see was like track runners in blocks going boom and just blowing out of there.
But then on the flip side to that is when they're 400 yards and going up fast, we're stopping and going, hey, do you want to reconfigure this? And then 100 yards. And finally, I was like, I lost my shit after the third day. I was like, no, we just need to go do what we said we were going to do and go through with it.
And live with the consequences.
Well, in the problem, okay, so you don't know how far, so you don't got a good range on distance.
Was that starting to get better, Mike? Was that starting to get better?
Starting to, but I wouldn't put that as one of my top skill sets. It's just something I will struggle with. And then the other thing in the morning time during our hunt, how fast the animals were actually moving up once they started moving was something that, like I said, once we're sitting there dialing in all these facets, the Daniel and Dallin are like, yep, and they're 200 yards further. And you want to wait another minute and a half, they're going to be 600 yards. So at some point, we either need to start moving or we need to look for another animal.
And that's good coaching right there, man. So super coaching, because it's a hint, either you listen to that or, and you learn from that. Now, I keep hearing you guys, and I hear most people all the time talk about morning situations. They're going up, we lost behind. Well, a lot of encounters weren't in the morning, too. They were in the afternoon, right?
All day long.
So how did that change?
In the afternoon time, I felt like we had more reactionary time. That they weren't transitioning as fast. A lot of times they were with cows, so they were preoccupied. Not to say that we didn't hear stuff below us when we started at a high point, and we had plenty of elk pass us. But I think in those situations there was multiple different elk, multiple different bulls, excuse me. And so you're going after one, and if the play didn't work on that, you were seeing if you could drop down and cut off another one. So unlike in public, you may have only one opportunity. Sometimes when you had multiple opportunities, it caused as much of a problem as if you were just focusing on one. So that being able to adapt, and I think more important, having the skill sets to know when to switch and refigure out a game plan. And that is one of those things. It started getting better and better as the week went on, because the things that you weren't worried about became second nature. But there is a lot of things going on, and anybody that makes this look easy,
it's 1,000 decisions.
That was the biggest takeaway from that is you're engaging in a sport that has so many facets, that processing speed is, I think, what you gain through encounters.
Mike, what time of year was this?
We were second week,
18th
so we were the
September.
second archery hunt. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Bulls are really popping.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Mike, because one of the things that we always talk about when we work on are failure points, right? And did you hit any of those failure points? Did any of those happen to you? The things that we try to teach you ahead of time so you don't get stuck in any of those failure points. Did you find yourself in that anyway?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely did. and I think it was stuff that the coaches could come and point out something and you'd get it and understand.
Right
And
away.
I think it's Gilbert saying it goes out the crack of your butt. And so them being able to refocus and just say, you need to focus on this, move wind, sight line. And so what happened through the progression is we all came in kind of sync, or the coaches learned where the coaching, how fast can they get their point across, either with a signal or whatever, and we started to finally pick up on it and could make those changes. But at first it was, I mean, God bless both of them, because the amount of times that they're like, you could just see it, but what came out of their mouth was very, very well done. It was a question. It was a, do you think, would this be something, or it was all those things that really got you to stop. And if we blew an opportunity, then at the end, when we called it quits or said we're going on, they would explain all the pitfalls of what we did. And then they would go back and say, this is what you could have done, not what you should have done, because they said, you could have gone one or two ways, but this
Sure.
is what we would have done. That stuff was, they are so I don't care about guiding. They are all expert teachers. However you picked these people, however you taught them, however they learned, how they present it back to you makes you answer the question. It makes you think, and it makes you learn. And so from that, you guys hit it out of the park every time. And that's why it's such a cool experience, because you're in the driver's seat making the decisions. You have somebody that can answer all those questions that's going to help you. And that sums up like everything that you guys are trying to do in my perspective. And it is really something special if you just go all in. You got to put your chips all in. Don't care if you screw up, because all of you guys have screwed up umpteen 1,000 times. That led you to be able to tell us how we're screwing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's real interesting because this is something that, coaches recognize. I mean, RC did Throws with me. Daniel's been around enough coaching as coach people, and Gil's been a coach forever, that so when we coach young people and we teach them techniques, you learn that they go up and you can see where, it's just not quite there. And you learn to develop cues, right? Cue words, whether it's hips, whether it's follow through, whether it's, you learn to develop those cues. And a lot of times that's what those coaches are doing with you, is just trying to give you a cue, so that, it just gets those juices rolling, and it's like, and it doesn't really take much, because now you have a basis that you understand. You have that baseline, and so that coach can cue you in ways that, now you can take it as the athlete and perform the way you should be able to, right? So that's what's so cool about this, man. And when I hear you say things, to me, it just makes me proud when anytime I hear, that these guys are doing it, because you can talk to RC coach throwers forever, and you can have it all down in practice. You can, and then those kids get in a ring, and it's like, who is that kid? It's like,
It's hard to apply pressure.
Yeah.
In training, it's hard to apply pressure in training. And look, I tell this to my athletes all the time. Pressure is what you feel when you don't know what you're doing. You've been doing this. Just walk in there and do it. You know, don't let the what ifs crawl in. It's the what ifs that hold us back, right? So we tell them all the time, pressure is what you feel when you don't know what you're doing. None of this is life or death, so the pressure should be nil. Just go in there and manage the controllables that you can manage, and then be aggressive. You know, we tell them be aggressive in your approach. Go do your job. You know, and it's the same thing with our hunters in camp, guys. If you blow a situation up, good. Now you've learned from that situation. But if you don't blow anything up, how are we gonna learn from that?
Not only, look, I'm just going to give y'all a secret, man. I could care less if I blow up a situation.
Me
I
too.
could care less if I blow it up. But I do care if I end up staying back and letting it walk out of my life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I am going to go in and see how much I can get away with. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not a very good rule person, right?
No.
I'm not good inside lines. I'm somebody that likes to always push the limits. And what I find with these critters is that what you think you're not able to do sometimes, you know, you can absolutely get away with and put yourself in a good situation, right? Now, there's sometimes, man, that it seems like I don't care what you do, it ain't their day to die and they're going to bust you or the wind or something's going to happen, right? That's all part of it, man. That's the joy and the frustration and the love of elk hunting. That's why it is so addictive, is because it is so dynamic. And like you said, I can take 5 steps, and I'd be in a situation of 5 steps, and everything changes like that. The wind has changed, the view has changed, another animal's come into the picture, he's changing what he's doing, right? All of these dynamics start to come into the ball game. I've been in great situations that I thought an animal was getting ready to die, and had a doggone coyote come and run right in the middle of it and just blow the whole thing up, right?
Yeah. Or have another elk sniff you and blow the whole thing up, right? I mean, walk right up to you and sniff you. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen, Joe. I mean, I had a cameraman with me this year, wild man, Mike Rowley, with us, and he told me after I shot my bull, he said, I'd have never drew on that bull. He was looking at you the whole time. He said, how did you ever draw on him? I'm like, bro, if you don't ever draw your bow, I don't give a damn if he's looking at me or not. If you don't draw your bow, you'll never kill him. You'll never get an opportunity to kill him. You got to be willing to risk it and risk him seeing you. I got a reed in my mouth. If he boogers, I can stop him generally within the next, 15, 20 yards. I said I had no problem drawing with him looking at me. I knew I had to draw to kill him. So with him looking at me or not, I'm going to draw anyway. I couldn't believe it that he didn't do anything but bark, right? He barked. When I cut it loose, he barked. It was crazy, but he allowed me to draw. I've said this a million times, guys, you got to be willing to blow things up to get it right, get it done right, and too many times guys either don't draw their bow, probably the number one thing that keeps them from killing a bull with their bow. They don't draw their bow, or they think that the animal's going to booger if they draw their bow.
Yeah,
right?
that's absolutely right there. So Farbot, and before you say anything, I want everybody to understand that yes, you were in a coached rifle hunt, but that rifle hunt started on October 1st so basically your training, other than the weapon, was everything that Mike went through, because you were calling all the guys in that group. The weapon changes things, the strategy's different for that. But other than that, the elk behavior and how they were moving and being able to talk, create opportunities, all of that was part of your training as well. So what were your biggest aha moments?
So I'll just start by saying that the night before the hunt started, there was elk maybe a couple hundred yards away from camp, bugling
Visually.
bulls visually, like
You
so
do use
we're
in a
all,
target-rich environment.
we're all super excited and we're ready. We're like, okay, there's elk everywhere. The chase is amazing. So that was my new perception at that point, was we're just going to be like tomorrow we're gonna fill our tags. This is gonna be great. And then the four groups all go out, and it's like silence that whole day. I don't know if anybody had any encounters. I didn't hear or see anything.
So
that was a little
it went
humbling.
from elk everywhere to crickets,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. So we didn't. I don't know if I did something wrong or what, but we just weren't. I think they just had migrated through in their little, their little schedule they have. So I think when I was working with James, who was great, he was my coach. I pretty much worked with him the whole time. And he did a really great job of he guides a lot and not taking over as a guide. And I told him, I really want to work on making these decisions and run these situations by you in my thought process. And, I'd love to hear what you think. And I told him, please, if I'm going to totally commit this horrible idea, let me know. And I don't think we did, but we ended up going through a few areas pretty quickly, throwing out calls. And I think that was kind of on me, learning experience there, that if you're going to go explore an area, to not just kind of, power through it, throw out some calls, wait for a few minutes, keep walking, throw out some calls. Okay, we covered that area in the morning. We didn't see anything.
That means there's no elk and they're not going to be there, right? That means we've cleared the area. Elk don't exist there. They're not going to be there ever again, right?
Wrong.
Yeah, and I think obviously looking back, should have camped out and kind of set up and made some calls and just have been a little more patient in that situation. So that was essentially the first day and a half for me. And I was pretty, bummed out at that point, because I was based on, day zero when we see everything, then when we actually start. So that was humbling. And, it was like, this is not going to be an easy thing, which I knew it wasn't. And that just reaffirmed that. And then Joe has said this 1,000 times, that everything can change in a couple minutes. And we heard a bugle, and we were at camp, believe it or not, heard a bugle, and then took off on a ridge, saw a group of elk bedded down. This is in the afternoon. There's a water source, and I was certain they're going to go down to the water source at dusk. And so we kind of camped out there, and we're up there for a few hours. And a little lesson there was, we took off from camp without our packs. I had my bino harness, didn't have the pack. And I had just eaten lunch. Thank you, RC. RC hooked us up and kept us fed that whole time. And Chav, I didn't think I'd gain weight on the trip. So thank you there. But James was hungry. He didn't bring any food. I didn't have any food. But we just stuck it out and waited for those elk. They're about 500 yards from us, on another ridge. We could see them kind of moving around in the tree line. And we just kind of camped out there, and until we lost sight, and it was getting dark. I think it was, I want to say, getting towards 5, 6 o'clock. And we lost sight of them. And then the big decision there was, what are we going to do? And the beauty of the ElkBros hunt was that everybody on that in the camp is all working together. So we got some news that Joe actually saw the herd. He was scouting things out from the road and saw the herd moving towards the property line in one direction. And he let me know and didn't really say anything else. He just told me that. And I, at that point, like, we need to be aggressive and cut the distance, and or else we're going to lose this opportunity, because this is the first opportunity we've had. And so, Joe, I can continue the story if you'd like.
Yeah. So, and it's real interesting because, there's some things that we talked about you learning early on, that all of these things occurred for you in that time. But go ahead. So tell us.
So we then cut the distance, and the beauty here was we didn't have our packs, so we could cut the distance pretty quickly. I had my rifle and my bino harness, and I don't know how far it was. I'm going to say a mile, but James is in great shape, and I had been training, so like it was a good workout, but without the pack, it was a lot more manageable. There's a few deep trunasses that we had to pass, so I thought of Big O. At that point,
What?
Trunas, you Google it. So we make it towards, we're getting relatively close to the property line of another ranch, and we're walking through a field of really tall sunflowers, like
Really
almost
tall, like
taller
taller
than
than
me.
you.
Really tall. Like, you can't take a shot if you're in those sunflowers. And there's an area that was a little bit not as tall, essentially. And as we're crossing this field in the wide open, we hear a bugle about 40 yards from us, and we just drop down into the sunflowers to get some cover. We see elk like kind of up on a little bit of a hill coming down towards us, and I'm looking like, can I take a shot? And he's behind trees, so I can't. He then walks towards the field, keeps bugling, and I've trained a lot. I work out all the time. I went shooting all the time. My heart rate, I think it was like 140. And I had to like take some deep breaths to calm myself down, collect my wits. And the bull starts walking past the field on the other side of these really tall sunflowers. And
About how far away from you?
40 yards. 40 yards. So thankfully, the other thing that I didn't mention was the wind was in our face the whole time. So we had like perfect scenario to cut the distance and not be scented. So at that point, like, I have a bipod. I can't use my bipod. I can't go prone. I can't really kneel. And so I'm like, I have to do an offhand shot, which Joe makes it seem like it's easy at 100 yards. And because he's like, you got to be able to take an offhand shot at 100 yards. And I like took that to heart. And at the range, I practice and practice and practice. I practice dry firing. So I stand up, and it was the hardest target acquisition I've ever had. It seemed like it took forever, but finally I got it right behind the crease. And of course, with it being offhand, the rifle's moving up and down, and I'm like, I need to just take the shot when I think it's in the right spot. I take the shot, the bull goes down immediately. The first shot spined it, and we waited a couple minutes, could see it breathing. We didn't approach it, and then at that point, I'm like, he kind of was moving his front legs. So I talked to James. I'm like, I think he's spined. I'm going to come around and take another shot. The second shot put him down for good. And that was the excitement of that day.
Bob, what caliber were you shooting?
300 and run.
So yes, 300 PRC.
Awesome.
I had talked to Joe, and I had a 6.5 Creedmoor, and he's like, don't use that. And so I got the 300 PRC. So I didn't want to be underpowered, and I just wanted to be very efficient.
Very good. Very
Great
good.
choice.
So what
Very good.
What were your takeaways from that stuff, man? I mean, when you had to reflect on all of that happened right there, your takeaways from your perceptions, that you had prior to that actually happening.
So my perceptions were that I was going to have plenty of time to set up, get comfortable, pull up my bipod, get set up for a shot a couple 100 yards away, really take my time, get the perfect shot, just like I had practiced,
Not have your heart rate up.
hundreds of times. And it was like, I'm going to either take this shot or lose this opportunity, even though I don't feel at my optimum right now because my heart rate's up. I got it down, but that adrenaline dump really affects you. And so my advice, which I think I've heard on here, is to do a vigorous workout, do burpees, and then take, practice with your bow or practice with your rifle. And so I'm going to definitely practice that kind of, shooting when I'm not feeling as great and I'm winded.
And he's actually coming back on an archery hunt this year, so he's now taking it what he's learned to the bow.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, I was going to say, poor dude.
Managing your central nervous system is extremely difficult to do. You can do it with some breathing techniques and stuff like that, but managing that adrenal dump is, fighters do it all the time, right? Mixed martial arts guys, they can't go into that adrenal dump or they just gas out, right? Because after that, man, the fatigue sets in really quick. So it's really hard you got to learn how to manage that, do some breathing techniques, and just, man, experience is key, to not getting what we call buck fever or elk fever or whatever it may be. Just managing that through some good breathing techniques and things like that. And it's extremely difficult. So bravo to you getting past all that and being able to come out on the other end. And even though, our shot was a little high, you put him down and got to finish him. So
what was interesting about that was that hunt was originally planned to be an archery hunt. And then we were going to have the coached rifle hunt. That was going to be a coached archery October 1st to October 5th. And then we were going to do the coached rifle after that. And nobody was booking that October 1st for a coached for a coached archery hunt. And which was really blowing because of our experiences with the elk. October 1st has just been unbelievable. And so I told that group of guys that, well, I'm sliding you up and putting you in there just for that October 1st experience. And now it's staying in it right now this year. But what was cool about that was we had four adventure campers, 4 hunters on that, and all 4 guys, so 3 killed, 1 didn't. The one that didn't was because he had a bull come in 20 yards on day 1 and passed on it because he thought it was too easy, right? All the other 3 bulls were killed with the rifle, under 60 yards. I think we had like 2 40s and a 60. Is what we had there. So that's that time of year what those bulls are doing, man. And it was really, really cool to see the growth and to see the thing, because I saw it in Farbot. I could see it in everybody. We're in camp the day before the hunt starts, and we're looking at a bull. It couldn't have been 80 yards from, right in the wide open, going across with cows right by camp, screaming his butt off. We couldn't care less about us, man. Elk were everywhere screaming. That night, couldn't go to sleep. They got up in the morning, went out there, and it was, and it was funny because Farbot, I could see him coming. He's like, you could almost see like the sucker yanked out of his mouth, right? He was like, what the heck, man? And I was like, dude, this is elk hunting, man. You're doing you got to do the grind, and you can go from 0 to hero in seconds, and things can change, right? And it's all about hunting the hunt. Do not expect anything to go easy. Now, there's times I'm telling you, I've had hunts where it was like everything was scripted. You like, there's no way that should have happened like that, you know? And then there's times, man, that, I mean, I've done 10 days, 10 days and grind every day only to kill that elk the last morning of the last day on day 10, right? So you don't know. You just have to stay focused and in the game, and you got to stay with your skill set. And that's like, you know, what you said, Farbod, you know, you took that to heart. I told you, you got to be ready to shoot offhand, right? Because in these situations, you do not know if you're going to have time to, especially if it's just an oh crap moment and that elk's on top of you. What are you going to do? Drop down and try to pull out a bipod? You know? I mean, I've got archers that can drop dimes at 80, that can shoot 100 with a bow and an arrow. I mean, I'm telling you, man, somebody with a smoke pole ought to be able to just pull that up and make it happen, right? But a lot of times it comes down because scopes are dialed up.
Yeah.
So you can't acquire that target. If you'd have been actually better off with open sights in some situations, right? Like that. So
Yeah.
no, that's really cool, man. Mike, and anything in any of those other areas that you felt like?
So I think if we can go back to earlier in the camp, I think some of the things that I potentially didn't see as much value as was actually created, and I would say shooting clocks. All of us could shoot. And
Will
what
you
clocks
explain to
is,
everybody what shooting clocks are?
so what clocks is they have a full-sized elk target and they have a hill and a flat. And so you rotate in different positions at different angles, maybe stepping out from behind something and shooting, kneeling and shooting. And so you go through every possible angle scenario that they can create in the range area, and it's at a different angle, so you're picking out where to position it. And I think the takeaway from there is a lot of us screwed up on the downhill shot. And Joe said, you guys, who's hunted out of a tree stand? And everybody raised their hand. It's like, shoot like you're shooting out of a tree stand. Bend at the waist and don't do anything else. So we all screwed that one up. And then it was how far back on a quartering away shot and all that stuff. Being that we were all reasonably decent shooters, you think, okay, we're just, kind of burning some time at the range to make sure that we're proficient enough for them to allow us to go hunt is kind of what the perception was, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the value that was created by that was off the charts in terms of the value. And then I think, so that was clocks. Then we went for a walk in the woods with our coaches to try and figure out communication and are you following? Are you lagging behind? How do you walk? So it's basically, how do you walk in the woods? And we're all like, okay, we're all hunters. Well, I'll tell you that there is an art to it. And when Joe's saying walk like an elk, it doesn't mean walk like a barbarian through the woods because elk make noise. You're still methodically walking, but if you kick something over or if you have to step on something, it's covering it with a cow call to when to stalk, when to be right behind somebody, when you can lag behind, learning hand signals and the value of that stuff and that's one of those things that I didn't give as much time and attention to from the academy is the signals. And if you're all in sync with the same signals, boy, does it make life easier when you're like, I don't know, what are you talking about? You're supposed to be doing something. You're asking me to do something. I don't know. So I would say those two things I didn't give as much credit. And then if I digress, knowing what I know now is how methodical the camp is and how much thought that you guys put into what we need to learn and the timing of it, the sequential timing. It's all those pieces sitting around in a group and calling to get over your like inhibitions of calling. So you'll ask for help. That turned into somebody was learning something at lunch break. Everybody would jump in. All the coaches would come in and you'd pick up those tidbits that actually made you a good caller by the end of the week. And it was somebody, one of the coaches or one of us pointing out this is how I learned it. And I remember, Daniel, my breakthrough, because you guys all do this soft cow and it's got that yeah at the back end, and I couldn't get that. And Daniel's just like, look, you got to drop away and in, and it's those things that made all of the little pieces become bigger and bigger. It was like that snowball rolling down the hill. But I would say I didn't give enough credit to just the walking and the hand signals in doing that little tour, the clocks, and then again, how much fun you can have learning with others when you don't care if you screw it up. I think that's one of the biggest things. We were all there to drink from the fire hose at different levels. We were all there to have fun. Everybody was there to learn and to support one another. And talking about like fun and cool, unique experience, those are the type of things that is so hard to put into words to have somebody understand what that experience was like. I mean, it's really difficult, but it is so well organized in all, like, again, all the coaches understand how to trigger you wanting to do more. And we woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I think the earliest I went to bed is 11 o'clock. And that was hitting, and we grinded. I mean, we stayed out, we came back to eat and circled back around, or you would go back to the range, you would go call, you would go retune something and go back out. So it's not like I didn't take a nap once. I think maybe I closed my eyes for 30 minutes in the whole entire week, because it's like you feel like you're missing out. You feel like there's something else to learn. You feel like there's opportunity in the woods. And that is a super unique experience that I'm glad that I did.
What you're talking about with the, with the signals and with the walking, the communication, people do not realize how important the communication is out there. And when it becomes important is when you blow an opportunity because of the lack of communication. Yeah. So that's generally where that happens, is that, you guys are in there and all of a sudden you blow it up and you come back and you're like, I was trying to tell you he was coming from the right. I was trying to tell you to move up, blah, blah, blah. Trying to tell. Well, there was no language. There was no communication. So that's why we try to teach that ahead of time. And listen, you guys and gals, man, if you have a partner and you guys are not practicing your setups, like giving a signal for a setup, getting in position, communicating with each other, talking about whether you're going to do a cow call, whether you're going to do a bugle, whether or not you see each other, see where the animal is, what you're going to do in that situation. If you're not communicating and practicing that, I mean, why do you think SWAT teams and military teams are so effective and efficient? Because they drill it time after time after time. And we're like, no, I feel goofy, I feel silly. I don't know what the reason is, man, because in basketball, man, we do inbound plays over and over and over again. We learn how to call the
We get
plays.
wrong.
Yeah, we learn to call things when we're on the floor. We learn communication with any team is the most critical component. Comms. When comms go out, people fail, right? When you do not communicate, people fail, right? And part of that communication is understanding how you're moving through the woods as well. I can tell what my partner is seeing by the way that they're moving, right? We have different roles and different jobs in that. So that stuff is so super critical. And so that people understand what clocks are, we actually have the elk target. If you think of a clock's face, the elk target is in the middle, and you can pretty much say that we've got shots at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock going around. And however the terrain changes, and we shorten and lengthen the distances so they're from different places when we do that, right? And if they have an obstacle in the way, they can draw, move to the side. I mean, real situations. You never have your feet in the mountains. Very rarely are your feet on flat ground. One's higher, one's lower. All of those types of real scenarios are so critical in preparing. Again, to at least give you that fathom of a chance when you get in that, right? And to help you in that situation. So, like we did clocks with y'all, Farbod, but it was a little bit different.
Mhm.
How did we do it with you?
Well, we did it with rifle. We all left the car and we're trying to find the elk first. I don't know if that was different than the. So our goal was to find the elk, call, and then there's 2 coaches by the elk on halfway up a ridge that would call back if it was like a good call, I guess. And then once you heard it and saw the elk, you're supposed to set up and you
got to find your line,
fire.
right? You guys had to find your line. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then after we did that, I think we did a similar drill where we kind of went around looking at our bull and kind of how would you set up in this position? What kind of shot would you take? And they wanted us to actually do that. Like, okay, this is going to be a kneeling shot, offhand, prone, and just to get a sense of how your position changes the angle and the distance and what obstacles. That was really helpful. And I do have to admit, we did dry fire. We triple checked, of course, to make sure nobody had any ammunition. But as soon as I left the car was my first lesson when Guy scolded me for slamming the car door. So I learned that pretty quickly.
Yeah. And the thing that we found out with our rifle hunters was they had issues with proximity. They wanted to jump up on an animal or take a wrong line where they weren't giving themselves the best shot opportunity. And then failure points, man, we had failure points. We had guys out there that didn't bring their shooting sticks. And we're like, we get in a situation and we're at daylight, there's a bull up on the side of the hill, and like, okay, how far is he? And he's like, well, my rangefinder's in the bottom of my pack, right? So now we're digging through a pack, trying to figure out, if they can get there, and they're losing opportunity right there. And then don't have shooting sticks. And I go, well, why don't you have shooting sticks? And he says, well, I figured I'd just get up on a tree. Never considered the terrain being, juniper and pinon with full branches that you can't get in on a tree to get on top of it unless you have a dead tree that's over there, 60 yards away that you got to get to, and now you're blowing, again, an opportunity. So, again, finding those failure points, it was proximity and being prepared. And a lot of times, guys go out And like Farbod said, he couldn't use his bipod. He had to shoot offhand. Well, if somebody can get down to sitting position, a lot of people never try that till it's actually there, and they go get in a sitting position and find they're extremely uncomfortable, and they've just burnt that time, right? That's all those things you need to find out ahead of time like that. So, yeah. What about calling? Did you guys have any aha moments with the calling?
I would say our aha moment was one of the first nights when Daniel and Dallin dropped back, because in ours you can tell them to do something, they just can't go do it. So we're like, drop back and put on a scenario. And we were all within visual distance, but to hear those two put on a scenario and play off of each other was, so amazing compared to what our skill sets were.
Right.
And to hear that in how they were, ramping it up and then letting it cool down and then bringing it back up, just to hear what a scenario was awesome. I think in terms of the calling, I would say that how in what I practice doing got me to be comfortable with the call, but not to make the calls compared to being in front of a coach and them fine tuning your call, how you do it, any little nuances in it's like a little code for them to crack too. And sometimes it's multiple people helping you, but they will figure out how to get you to call to the best of your ability. And I would say in my case, I spent a lot of time trying. My partner really didn't even pick up a call until 3 weeks prior. And I thought there was no way that he was going to make it. I called Joe and I'm like, what do you do in this circumstance when your partner hasn't picked up the call? Do we buy, a different type of call? And then he started working with Jamie. But what I would say is the coaching element of calling brought him and I at the same level when we were leaving. So the time that we left, they got him with probably 10% of the practice that I had to my level, which that right there is worth the price of admission, because if you watch some of these hunting shows and seeing what kind of garbage calls these guys are making, it's staggering. And then you listen to these coaches go out there and work their magic. It's monumentally different in nature. And I think the biggest takeaway was that one-on-one interaction can get you real far, real fast. And I still can't chuckle. So from that standpoint, I'm still working on that lifelong pursuit.
Farbod, did you have to stop that bull before you shot him with the call?
That's a great question, and that was going to be something I mentioned. That was a failure point for me. How many times have I heard you need to have a call in your mouth? I can't tell you how many. And I told my coach, and this is on me. I shouldn't have put this on anyway. I said, if I have a shot, I want you to do a little cow call. Okay. And we talked about that like as we were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stood up to take the shot, the elk kind of saw me and stopped broadside. So I really couldn't have asked for a better shot.
Done
And when I did that, I said, call. to James, and James was like this, ready for the shot. And I think me saying call actually got the elk to stop. Maybe it was the motion itself. But nonetheless, it was broadside. It seemed like forever. I'm like, he's going to take off right now. He's not taking off. Okay, take the shot. But yeah, that was a lesson to me to be ready with the calm mouth, just like you preach with the archers. But I didn't think I would have to be in that situation with the rifle, because again, in my mind,
You're going to have a lot of time.
A couple 100 yards away. I'm going to have time. That's not going to matter. I think the situation could have gone differently. And not having that call may have played a factor. So I certainly won't make that mistake again.
Awesome, man. Well, RC, you got a chance to hear a lot of these guys when they come back to camp, and you see a bunch of those aha moments, out there, and things that you're going like, and you actually get to see things that they're not quite getting yet, right? Was there anything that kind of stood out to you that on those hunts, things that?
I think it was fun because I remember one incident. Mike had this young man, and he was very shy and
What, 16?
bashful.
About 16
Yeah, he was
years old?
15 or 16 years
Yeah.
old, I think. And Mike took him out, and he picked it up like you wouldn't believe. And he came in, and he said, "RC, I got to show you something." And he said, I'm gonna do a cow call for you." And I was like, "Okay, that's pretty cool, And so he says, "Can I bugle for you?" And so he turned around and he bugled for me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he couldn't even make a noise with the reed before." And it was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome." And those little moments like that, it were just, there was endless. I can't say enough about the coached hunts, the rifle and the archery, because it's like they're learning so much from these coaches. And it's like, to me, being at camp and I was kind of like overseeing or kind of hoping everything went right, and to hear what happened during the daytime, with these coaches and stuff, like I was like, hey, these guys got it. Daniel was just unbelievable. Him and I think it was Brian, what is his name? Was that his name? You and Brian did the first.
Brian was one of the rifle hunters.
No,
That's in the
on the
different.
coach.
Okay.
Arizona. Arizona. We call him Socks. Old Socks.
Oh, Randy.
Randy.
Yeah.
Those, after that first, it was like, oh my gosh, these guys are phenomenal. They really knocked a home run. So yeah, it was really, and for me, I'm sorry, I've guided all my life, but I'm looking at it going, hey, everybody that comes on a elk bro hunt needs to be coached. Sorry.
Yeah. RC's right. It's incredible to see the transformation of our hunters in camp that they put the work in, right? We've seen guys come to camp and they hadn't put the work in, and it's a struggle. I can't tell you how important, we stress it a lot, how important learning how to speak the language is to bow hunting and to rifle hunting. It is imperative that you need to be able to have a basic skill set to make the right sounds and understand the language that's being spoken in front. It's like going to Mexico and not being able to say "Una más cerveza, por favor," right? You ain't drinking anything but water probably. So at the end of the day, if we don't know what we're talking about, we don't know what we're saying, we don't know what the elk are talking about, it's really difficult to get in there, and especially on the archery hunt, to be successful. I mean, we can all hike and hope, but man, if you want opportunity after opportunity, you better be able to call. And we can't stress it enough. And the guys that come in camp, they can make the sound and they work really hard, they're usually more successful. Or they're more successful at gaining opportunities. I won't say necessarily in finishing, but gaining opportunities. They're more successful at being in those elk every day because they're bringing them to them, not having to just go to them, you know?
Yeah, creating
And
an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And Joe, I had a couple things in my notes that piggyback off that. It's kind of one of those things. If you don't know your gear, don't figure it out while you're hunting. So
Exactly.
it's kind of one of those things. Where your pack shooting, like you said, wear a
Mhm.
glove. I'm in Florida. I'm wearing a freaking glove trying to shoot in the summer. And then I would say a couple things that were aha moments in prep. One, the bow hitch.
Oh,
That thing.
yeah.
I have a bad back and I have tennis elbow in my bow carrying arm. That thing, Armando, you're the best ever for bringing that to market. And people that don't know what that is, carrying your bow sucks. Buy a bow hitch. Flat out the best piece of gear I had, hands down, don't care. Nothing is a close second.
Agreed.
Then,
Agreed.
so whatever you guys say, it's because either you developed it out of necessity, like the soloist tube. Everybody at camp had a soloist tube. Everybody was using the Burnham Red, then the grinder, and then the sugar. And you don't need one, you need like three. You're going to lose them. You're going to blow one out, especially in our camp. So it's that, those two things. Pursuit poncho was great. I had rain gear and I'm like, I put that on 5 minutes later. I took it off. I'm like, should have used the damn poncho. So whatever you guys say, it's not because you're trying to sell something.
No.
It's because it
It's
flipping
reuse it.
works.
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah.
to get in shape, I hired Preston from Mountain Physio.
Yes, sir. Dr. Preston Warden.
Yeah, and so because I had part of the reason I was testing my back, I didn't think I was going to be able to go, and I started working out and avoided back surgery. And let's put it this way, he kicks your butt.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I could keep up with. I had to skip some days, but everything that you guys started to harp on, once you got to camp, you became a believer and you're like, I'm glad I just had enough sense to listen. And the bow hitch was hands down number one. Couldn't imagine carrying my bow around for that amount of time.
Yeah. No, and I want everybody to understand something. We've had people that have offered to give us affiliate kickbacks for products that if we sell them, and we have never accepted a single affiliate kickback. We try to get them to increase the discount for our people to give that value because we believe in the products that we use. You know, we use a bow hitch because we believe in it. You know, we wear the 2.0 gear because frankly we just friggin' love it and believe in it. We, you know, the talking about the buck wipes there. You know, we give these things out in orders, man, to go out there because, you know, I've had them out there and man, I won't go with it without it being in my pack. The broadheads I use, the arrows I use, everything that we
Boots
do.
we wear.
The poncho, Get
Yeah.
0 out of any sold poncho on there. But that is the best friggin' poncho out there. It's built for bow hunters, man. And I've used a poncho, and for years I would buy one from Walmart and have to leave it outside for a week to get that friggin' smell out of it. And, you know,
His fly covers, Western fly cover, the fly covers for your packs, phenomenal, man.
so that's the point we want to get across is, you know, if you see a discount, I'm telling you, it's because we believe in it. We're trying to support somebody that's doing something good and at the same time get you a deal. Our coaches will tell you about different things, different items that we use. Gil loves the Mindel boots there, you know. We got different people that love stuff. And, you know, we're going to share that with you. But it's just to give you a choice. We're telling you our way that we do things.
But it's what makes us successful, Joe, when we're in the woods. Look, there's no more bigger proponent for our soloist tube than myself. I've been hunting with that style tube since I started elk hunting. Joe gave me my first bugle tube, was a Carlton tube that I still carry with me, and on every elk hunt it's with me. I may not have it in the field, but I promise you it's in my gear. But I used the soloist tube this year. It was so important for me to have that soloist tube this year to kill my bull. People ask us all the time, why don't we use a bat tube? Because you need 2 hands to run a bat tube most of the time. That means I can't draw my bow and still be able to work my tube with. It's the reason why we wear the bandoliers type tubes, so we can be really minimal in our movement and still
100%.
project calls behind us, right? So we're not telling the elk exactly where we're at. We're projecting it behind us. That bull this year, I had to calm him down. He wanted to leave. He's barking the whole 9 yards. One little bull mew, and that set him at ease where I could draw my bow with him looking at me and kill him. I'm telling you, the reason why we run the soloist is because it works. That's why. It's not to sell more tubes. Yeah, I mean, we got tubes for sale. But at the end of the day, man, this is practical stuff that Mr. Boland talked about already, right? We're not trying to sell you anything. We're trying to show you what makes us successful in the woods.
Bottom line, and on all I want you guys is to hear this. Use what makes you confident.
Yeah.
If you are confident in what you're using and what you're doing, you're going to be a different hunter. If you're questioning it and you don't have confidence, no matter what it is, you're setting yourself up for a failure point, okay? So find the choice, find what works for you, and just keep running with it, all right? Gil, let's close out for tonight, and I'll tell these boys goodbye after you do.
Man, I'm telling you what, phenomenal to have our adventure campers in camp with us tonight and hear what we knew that we were given, but it's so cool to get their feedback. Number one, so we can get better every day. I mean, Joe and I don't rest. We're trying to figure out better ways to bring this content to you and better ways to portray it once we're in the field, right? So can't thank Mr. Farbod and Mike with us tonight, man. Phenomenal job, guys. If you like what we're doing, fellas, please and fellettes, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and review us. You can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like our questions answered on our show, just send your question to joe@elkbros.com. That's joe@elkbros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Farbod, Mike, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, El
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
Nice seeing you.
Big O,
Yeah, thanks.
Daniel, RC.
Daniel, see you down the road, man.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
All right. God bless.
Where others' fear is home to me. No boundaries for my soul. The pounding, the primal blood, driving hunger like no other, running through my veins. No man versus nature, only me versus me. A centuries old challenge, raging deep inside my soul. No anger, whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. Like a ghost unseen, tasting every scent, knowing with every breeze. The trail before me, the fire burning inside me. This is what we live for, honor, passion, and pain. This is my life, grinder born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. This is my life, runner born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way.